Welcome to the Desert Sanctuary with Carl and Laura Forehand.
Often, when we have doubts about religion or simply want to ask questions, it can feel like we are wandering out into the desert.
We would like to invite you to join our sanctuary, the Desert Sanctuary.
We've tried to pick guests that would resonate with and challenge us and our fellow seekers here in the desert.
We believe that a key to the journey is to keep asking good questions, and we believe that all stories are sacred.
Our hope is that you will find life and healing for your body and mind, and that you will be able to be where you are and be who you are.
And now, here is our show.
Hey, welcome back to the Desert Sanctuary. We're glad that you're here. Glad you can join us. My special guest today is Webb. Derek's has a new album already, and really we're ready for it. So, but this is a little bit different path. So, welcome, Derek. How are you?
Good. How are you? It's good to talk to you again.
And doing the best I can is what I tell everybody.
That's all you can
Yeah,
do.
that's right. So, your new album is called Survivor Songs. Is that right?
Survival songs. Yeah.
Not looking directly at it. So, I listened to it the other day. I loved it. I'm just going to let you start off. Where'd the idea come from? How'd this thing come about?
Yeah. Well, I have always said, I've always loved as a job description for what I do. I've always loved the idea that the job is to look at the world and describe it. Look at the world, tell people what you see. That's not a bad job description for a creative. And if you like that, you can try it out and see how you feel about it. Um, and for me, I was having, let's say, middle of last year, 2024, into the first couple of months of 2025, I was having a really hard time figuring out how to talk about the world that I was seeing. It was really difficult. And I've kind of related it to that moment when you're driving down the road and the serpentine belt breaks and every gauge lights up in your car and everything goes wrong at one time and you don't even know what to address first. And it just
Mhm.
feels like the world that we have been in, that we've acclimated to, there are just fires everywhere. Everything's on fire.
Yeah,
And so it's
exactly.
hard to know, yeah, like what to address first. It's hard to know where to even start. And for me, it was causing a little bit of writer's block just because I wanted to contribute, but I didn't know what to say about anything. And I'm not unaccustomed to writing protest songs. I've done a decent amount of that in my career, but I just didn't even know where to start. So it took me a while, and what I eventually figured out was that, and if this is helpful for anybody who feels that same paralysis, that for me, there for anybody, there's going to be a tallest fire. There's going to be the one that you can't see past even to address and see all the others.
Hmm.
And for me, the tallest fire that I really needed to go after first was what I am seeing and how I am feeling about watching my queer loved ones and friends trying to survive in 2025. It's being pursued on every side from the church and the government and everybody, and especially queer youth, as though being an adolescent is not hard enough
Yeah.
to have these additional layers being weaponized as pieces in a political game by people who've never met you and tell you you don't exist. And
Hmm.
it's just, and when you see the statistics in the queer, especially youth community, of self-harm and suicide, I mean, it's overwhelming. And to me, I knew once it hit me that this is what I needed to write about, and this is what for me was the most personal, because of, again, my loved ones, my dear friends. And so it was like the beginning of, it was like in February. I At the beginning of February, I had no thoughts about making a new record. Again, I was still in that state of, I don't know what I'm going to write about. I don't know, and I thought maybe second half of the year I'll write a new record and do a tour for that. Once it hit me what I needed to be doing and what I could contribute as an ally, um, the record just fell out. Like, these 9 songs got written. In fact, the entire record was written and recorded in about 3 weeks.
Mm.
So by the end of February, it was finished
That's
and
fast.
recorded.
Pretty fast, right?
For me, that is insanely fast. It's never happened before. And
Yeah.
then we put it out as quick as we could, and it just came out a few weeks ago, and now I'm hitting the road this weekend.
Yeah,
So.
it's great. So I, kind of share your feelings that the world's on fire. After the election in November, I just kind of melted.
Hmm. Hmm.
Been a weight on me for too long. What I want to ask is, do we sometimes assume that the general queer population is okay now? I mean,
Hmm.
they have made a lot of strides, and our awareness has come up,
Hmm.
and so on, and some things are happening in positive direction. We tend to forget that they still need an ally or an advocate in some cases.
Yes. Yeah. I think you know what? It's like, it's tough because it hasn't been my lived experience, but I have lived in very close proximity to a lot of folks who are having to navigate this. And I feel, yeah, I think if you look at the last couple of decades, it does feel like things must be a little better in some ways, in terms of um, normalizing, not having straight white stories be at the normal center of all cultural reality, and decentering whiteness and decentering straightness, and putting and maleness, and like getting all the classical things that have dominated culture forever out of the center. I think you're starting to see that here and there, but you zoom back far enough and it feels more like a couple of steps forward and a step or two back. I don't even know if we're a break even at this point, because it feels like, like the waves have kind of crashed and brought some good things in and then just receded.
Hmm.
And
Good
now,
picture.
with Trump now, it feels like the threat is extremely real. If anyone thinks it's not, you're just really not paying attention, in terms of the threat being very real to all of the great progressive strides and rights and legal protections are just being targeted and rolled back. And there seems to be such a targeted agenda about this. And it's fascinating to me the way that these men are so obsessed with the hearts and lives of folks who are just literally trying to be themselves in their own bodies
Mm-hmm.
and express who they are out of their own physical bodies. And it's, yeah, I can't, I don't, I obviously could speculate about it. And
Hmm.
there's some of the classic things just about the way bullies work that you could understand. But
Yeah.
for me, I feel like it's almost like, thinking about your question, it's almost like, it probably, if I was to try and imagine what it's like to be some of my family and friends in the queer community, it probably feels more like we've been teased with it, like they gave it to us for 5 minutes and they took it right back, and or they immediately just threatened to take it back, and it feels very unstable. It
Yeah.
feels,
Disrupting. Yeah.
yes, very, 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 like a lot of cracks, and like the ground is very unstable under our feet. And I think this is a time, I think it's times like these. Howard Zinn, in his book Artists in a Time of War, wrote about how times like these can and should galvanize especially artists to write better, to build better Trojan horses, to put these stories into melodies and lyrics and get them out, in order that people, they can go further sometimes than just a persuasive article can, maybe, or art in general, though. So I mean, all writing really can do this. It scales. And so I feel, to me, the way I would have described this whole feeling for me of writing and releasing this record and everything around it, it's an emergency. It's urgent. It's an absolute urgency that I'm feeling. And I think it's like, as I said, I mean, when things are on fire, you run towards them.
Yeah.
Before you make plans as you're running. And so that's kind of what I feel like I've been doing a little bit.
Our friend Paula Stone Williams says, the two things you need are proximity and narrative. And so
Yeah, yeah, it's
talking
good.
about the narrative, but also you're talking about getting close to
Yes.
people and getting to know them and so on. So the songs. in the album. The first one I remember is Queer Kid.
Yeah,
That one's probably my favorite now, and I've only listened to it a couple of times. But
yeah,
what songs do you want to talk about? Which ones kind of stuck out to you or have a specific meaning
yeah.
that?
Well, so I mean, obviously, so it's not a very long record. It's only like a 41-minute record. And I tend to be a real talker, and so and that's true of my albums too. So like, I've tended to make very long. I write long songs and make long albums. But this thing's pretty efficient. Again, it came from that emergency nature of it. I was like, I got to get this done, and I can't make it too much for people. I need you to be able to get through it.
Hmm.
But all the songs, I mean, every one of the songs means so much to me. I mean, so Queer Kid is the opening song on the record,
Hmm.
and it is literally a song about a conversation I had with a loved one about how it felt to go back to high school the morning after Trump had been reelected,
Hmm.
and how they felt like their very lives were just illegal now. That they just felt like they were in the line of fire, and um, which and really honestly, the way the songs were written, I mean, there's a real progression to it because that song leads right into the second song, which is called Nail Polish, which is a song about why I, as a straight cisgender man ally, um, paint my nails. Why do I keep my nail? Why do I tend to keep my nails painted? And the main reason, not only to be in solidarity with my friends and my family who are um, unintentionally, just by the living of their very lives, are challenging to gender binaries
Hmm.
in a good way. To be in solidarity with them, but also because it's, for me, it's like an early warning system when I'm in public and I'm with my queer family and my
Hmm.
friends. A guy like me with his nails polished, I tend to get all the side eye. As soon as I walk into the room, I immediately get a read on where the potentially unsafe energy is.
Hmm.
And it puts me in a better position to to keep my people safe in public. And you want to know where the threats might be coming from. And that really is the world we're in 2025. And if somebody hears that and that sounds kind of alarmist, and try it,
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Do something that's challenging, and then go out in public with your queer family and friends. And if you don't have queer family and friends, either you don't know your family well enough, or you're not a person that apparently is safe enough for queer people to befriend you.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to address that first. But try it, and you'll see what I mean. You will the energy that comes at you that you can immediately read and detect, and the way it does make you, it puts you in the position to be able to stand up for your people when you're out in public. And it really is, that really is how the world is
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So yeah, it's a shame that we have to be in that hyper vigilant state.
it is a shame.
It's really a
I agree.
trauma. It's really a trauma state, and all those things. But just to be aware of that and to be, yeah, again, how much attention you draw. It reminds me of when I took my granddaughters into the men's restroom because we were on the road and they said, I got to pee. And, I don't want to get arrested for them going on the side of the highway. But they walked in
Right.
the men's restroom with all this bathroom issues.
Oh yeah.
It was just one guy just staring us down like what, and we're doing nothing wrong. I can't go in their bathroom to go to anyway.
Yeah.
I you could the songs for me, it felt like I could feel them.
Hmm.
More than just they're informative. Well, now you're educated on being an ally. Um, I literally felt them. And
Hmm.
I have prejudice of all kinds in my past, and I'm still working on a lot of that. But,
Sure, of
but
course.
yeah, you know, there's a lot of feeling. It's all acoustic, right? And is that on purpose?
it,
I mean, I'm
it,
sure
it
it's on
is.
purpose, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is for the most part. I have tended over my 30 years, 20 something years as a solo artist, um, to kind of veer hard right and left when it comes to production. I like to experiment. I like all kinds of sounds, and I've done a lot of different styles or whatever. For me, again, it's interesting that this is becoming the theme of this conversation, but it came back for me to the urgency of it.
Mhm.
And I just didn't want to take the time it would take to add a lot to it. What I literally did is I have friends here in Nashville who manage a bunch of short-term rentals, and I had a free weekend. It was the first free weekend I had once all the songs were written. I had 9 songs written. I knew I was finished with the record, and I was very anxious to get it recorded. And I had gotten a 12 track recorder, which is like, it's not a computer. It's just I mean, I've always made records. You make records on computers, you use
Mhm.
Pro Tools and these things,
Yeah.
but I wanted to do something more simply, more vulnerable, more authentic, more immediate emotionally, and that I couldn't fix, I couldn't repair, I couldn't tune it, I couldn't. And so I had gotten myself this Tascam 12 track recorder, and so I called my friends and I said, "Hey, do you have any houses that no one is occupying this weekend? And could I crash in one for a few days? Because I want to try to record a record. I need to focus." And they had this house over on the east side of Nashville. And I mean, we live in Nashville. My wife and I live on the south side, and she didn't even come visit me during those days. I literally took my 12 track, a couple of guitars, a tambourine, and a cajon, and I went. I moved into this house for 2.5 days, and I just ate, slept, and did nothing but immerse myself into recording this record. And I recorded the whole thing in a couple and a half days.
Right.
And and then I mixed it quick as I could, and then we released it quick as I could. So it's like and it is very acoustic, but one of the reasons is, again, because of the urgency of it for me. It was like, you know what, that's enough. Like
Mhm. Yeah.
there's enough there. It feels done to me. Could I do more with it? Of course, but I need this out as soon as possible. Like I need to externalize and scale this. And so that was it. This is the first record of mine in all my years ever that I mixed myself. I've never mixed any of my records. I'm not the worst, but I'm not the best when it comes to mixing. I've never trusted myself to do it, but I was like, I got to get this done. And if I add much more to it, I won't be able. My skill level to mix it is going to be. I'm going to be out of my depth. And so, for a lot of reasons, I was like, okay, I'm done. Mix it. And then, as soon as literally a couple weeks ago when it came out, was the soonest we could get it out. And
Yeah.
so a lot of it was just utility. It was like, let's get it done.
Yeah. Nice. And that feels so good when you're authentic, when you feel like you've been authentic. It's like it's much harder. People can still hurt you and criticize you,
Yes.
whatever, but it's it's much more satisfying and long lasting
Yeah.
to do things authentically.
Well,
It's-
and you want to feel like you've done that at every level, at every layer of it. And so for me, I didn't want the songs felt very authentic and emotionally honest to me, but you don't want to then go in the studio and record them in a way. There's nothing wrong with the way anybody wants to record a record, but
Right.
there's something about going in and fixing it and cleaning it up and making it that does tend to take some of the authenticity away. So for
Right.
me,
Putting
you
some
want to just
polish
like
on it.
let's
Yeah.
keep it honest at every stage, and that was for me what I needed to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So the feedback, so you're friends with Jennifer Knapp and Flammy Grant and some of those
Sure.
uh, and other queer people, but also what's the reaction from the sort of the other people like me?
Yeah.
What are you getting back?
Yeah. Yeah. It has been really interesting. It's been very encouraging. I obviously sent it. I actually more than sent it. When I first, in those weeks that I was working on it, I wrote it and recorded it in about 3 weeks, as I said. And as soon as I was working on it, I started to talk to my friends about it because I didn't want to have any blind spots or insensitivity about what I was saying and the way I was saying it. And so I was talking to my friends, especially my friends in the queer community, and especially artists in the
Hmm.
queer community. And you mentioned Jen Knapp and Flamey, and those are exactly some of the people I reached out to. And
Yeah.
I mentioned to them what I'm doing. And I actually got feedback as much as I could from my friends. And I started to ask my friends, especially my queer friends, like, what, because again, these songs to me are focused mainly to queer youth, which who are the folks I think are the most vulnerable, the ones that are the most under fire, and the ones that need the most encouragement and being equipped to handle this because they're young. It's hard enough to be adolescent without the added layer of politicians targeting you. And so I went to my friends and I said, if you could say something to your adolescent teenage self to help them survive these days that we're going through right now, what would that be? What would you say to them? What would you try to, you know, get through to them that could help? And I asked a lot of my friends this question, and I got a lot of amazing feedback about this, and a lot of that got written into these songs. And then I actually went further. Some of the feedback was so beautiful, and I haven't talked about this particular thing to anybody else before, but there was it was so good that the feedback I was hearing, it was so touching to me that I went back to many of them and I said, "Would you mind?" Just hit record on your iPhone and could you speak that for me? Could you literally say it
Mm,
with your voice and imagine you're saying it to that younger version of yourself? And
yeah,
could you do that for me? And would you allow me to use that actual recording of your voice doing that? And I wound up, I thought I was done with the record, and then I added an additional song at the end, um, and that's words of affirmation, and it is, and Flamey is on there, and Jennifer Knapp is on there, and a ton of my friends are on
yeah,
there, and in their own voices, they are saying the affirmations that they wrote for themselves. Um, and I was able to put their own voices into that last track, and I thought that would be a beautiful way to that's something I'd like to leave these folks with at the end of hearing these songs. That's what I want you to remember. That's the thing
yeah,
you need, So it was a really sweet thing.
yeah. It's
Yeah, so
very
that's the feedback I
moving.
got.
It's very moving to listen to that solo
So it's
trance.
Sola Translove. There's a part one, words of meditation, partway through the record, and then the last track is part two of that same song, and it's words of
Words
affirmation.
of affirmation. Yeah.
Hmm.
So can we kind of close? And again, the record is called, it's not a record anymore. Um, I'm sorry, Survivor Songs by Derek
Yeah,
Webb, uh,
yeah.
former Caedmon
It's still a
squad
record to
guy.
me.
Still a
That's
record.
the that's still how I do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't. I've never been a guy who's been very interested in putting singles out. I want a good hour with somebody, to address a topic. So yeah.
So I'm going to see Flamey again next time. I'm going to see her in Omaha. It's close to me. Um, and I noticed they have a huge Pride Week, Pride
Mm,
celebration. But I saw people doing all kinds of different things, trying to be allies and advocates. So
mm.
streamline, clarify for us, help us, and then anything else you haven't got to say in the last few
Yeah,
minutes here.
yeah. Well, so I'm a student when it comes to my allyship, and what I will tell you is what I have learned about being an ally. The I learned from my time spent with my friends and my family, and them educating me and telling me what they need. And Flamey Grant and I are very good friends, and we have been for a while. And maybe last year we did a tour together, the End of Days tour, which I think we're going to do annually. But and that was the first time that we'd gotten to spend real concentrated time together, like in a car for 10 hours a day, playing shows and under crazy circumstances and in truck stops and conversations with Flamey has been such a gift in my life. I mean, she has been such a good friend to me, and has been just has given me so much, that has meant so much to me. And she really gave me a lot when it came to just the conversations that we had, and my really feeling safe to ask her, like, what can I do? What's appropriate for me to do? What might just appear performative and might really be performative for me, and what's really meaningful, and how can I be a better ally and
Mhm.
not just be performing for my own, just to make myself feel something, but what would really help the community, and where do I need to stay out of the way? And what I would tell people is first of all, have queer friends.
And yeah,
And if you don't, find out why you don't have queer friends and trans friends, like you should. If you don't, solve that problem first, and then um, educating yourself on being an ally means spending time with those people and getting into relationship with them to the extent that you can ask them candidly and vulnerably, what can I do, what would genuinely help, and to then listen, and to take their counsel on that. And because many times I feel like I know that I can sometimes lead a little bit with my enthusiasm and not think it through. And I certainly, as a younger man, that's bitten me several times. And so, what I don't ever want to do is jump into some kind of fight and wind up doing something that is more hurtful to the cause and the
Right.
people
Right.
than if I had just stayed out of it. And so, you really want to take, this is for me as as a cisgender straight man, I can participate in and I can follow into this fight, but I'm not a leader in this fight. And so I have to follow. No, I do want to be there on those front lines and lock arms with my friends and family, but I will follow their lead. And I think being a follower and a student in allyship, I think is probably the most important
Yeah.
thing. That's a bit of guidance I could
You
give for
definitely got
sure.
to be aware. I got stopped by TSA because my belt went off, and so they had to pat me down. And so the guy said, I'm gonna have to pat you down. Hope you don't mind. And I realized mid conversation he's probably gay,
Mm.
and I I said just don't enjoy it. And then I went, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said. And so I said, I
Uh,
don't care. Enjoy it if you want to. He said Merry Christmas or something like that. But um, I don't know. The
yeah.
story proves anything, but it's somewhat of a minefield. But get to know people, proximity,
Yes.
as Miss Paula said. Um, man, it's
Let
been
it
great.
flow out of the organic relationships that you have in your life. And
Yeah,
if you don't have those organic relationships, then find out why.
yeah. Find out how to do that and do it. Okay, man. Thanks a lot for stopping in. We appreciate
Oh,
you.
absolutely. It's always a pleasure to get to spend time with you.
And now that more things are happening, more tours and so on, we try to catch you and Flammy and Jen as much as we can, and
Yes.
keep
Well,
doing
please
what
always
you're
let me know
doing.
if you're around, and you better believe we're going to see you. So,
I really love this album because this album record, whatever you want to call it,
mm,
because it definitely feels from the heart, and I
mm,
think that if as most artists would consider that a success already. So
yes. Thank you
get
so
out,
much for that.
yeah, get out there and support it, um, and do what you can. As always, I want to remind you to be where you are, be who you are, and be at peace.
Thank you for joining us today on the Desert Sanctuary podcast.
Remember, all who wander in the desert are not lost.
We believe all of our stories are sacred.
We are always here if you need someone to hear your story.
Check out our blog on Pathos and also our YouTube channel.
And stay tuned for our Leaning Forward conference.
Remember, we love you.
And be at peace.